Live from the Oxford University Press office in New York City, I'm Phaedra Kress, Executive Editor of the Aesthetic Surgery Journal, and I'm with Executive Publisher Chris Reid of Oxford University Press. We're just back from the annual aesthetic meeting in New Orleans, and as any presenter knows, it's important to know your audience. And one of the things we learned in New Orleans was that there's a real desire to know more about open access and our newly launched journal, ASJ Open Forum. So today our intent is to go over some of the frequently asked questions and to dive a little deeper into what open access is and try to help explain a couple of questions that came up at the meeting. So Chris, can you give us a high-level overview about open access? What is it when publishers talk about it, and what's the actual import on people like the authors and reviewers of journals?
Certainly. So open access is a growing area within academic publishing, within scholarly communications, and it's based upon the idea that scholarly content should be free at the point of access. And so what that means is it's not just free to view, but it's able to be reused within certain limits as well. It's a really strong response from the community who believe that publicly funded articles and science in particular should be free at the point of source and not be only available for subscribers. As publishers, we're very much embracing this viewpoint. We still obviously have to have a responsibility to deliver revenues to our society partners and to the scholarly community as a whole, but it's a new business model that we're looking at very closely and working to develop further.
So it's actually not a brand new business model. I mean, hasn't open access been around for approximately 15 years? And from a publisher's perspective, wouldn't you say that has come a long way in terms of sort of the embracing of open access?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd say that open access has been around for, as you said, about 15 years. I think in recent years, the trend is getting stronger. It's getting a lot of support from institutions. It's getting a lot of support from funders. The one I'd look at particular is something called Coalition S. Coalition S is a group of European funders and a US funder, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they are making a move to say that the people they fund have to publish in what are known as gold open access journals. So essentially their content has to be free to the public as soon as it's published.
So in essence, to recap, for any author who is funded by, for example, the Wellcome Trust, RCUK, Bill and Melinda Gates, they are required to publish in an open access journal.
That's right.
So that parlays into another benefit of ASJ Open Forum, which is our newly published open access journal. Mm-hmm. So why was now the right time for the Aesthetic Society and ASJ proper to decide to launch an open access journal?
I'm glad you asked. It's a good question. So the driving force for us and working with ASAPs as well was really twofold. So one is the growth of open access as an area, but the other is the tremendous success of ASJ. ASJ has gone from strength to strength in recent years. Its impact factor has climbed. It's gone up to 12 issues, and it's turning away a lot of good work. It's also an opportunity as the field grows to embrace new forms of research. So we've done a lot of speaking before about aesthetic surgery and media, which doesn't traditionally fit into a scholarly communication package or an article. ASJ Open Forum is a really great opportunity to have more media. It's going to be more clinically focused. It'll have more featured operative techniques. And the best part of all is it'll be free at a point of access. So as aesthetic surgery as a field grows globally, we really want to make sure that the journals have access to that audience, and rather the audience has access to the journals, and open access is the perfect way to do that. We really feel it'd be fantastic for young surgeons as well, for residents who are looking to get early publications, which is increasingly difficult, to put more case reports in. There's so many opportunities actually for a brand new journal. That was really the driving force. The ASJ is so strong now that actually a new journal would bring a new opportunity to the market.
So there's three things that I'm particularly excited about with regard to Open Forum, and that's video as an opportunity to publish an article in video format. And under that same video umbrella would be the My Way articles and the featured operative technique articles. So these are articles that traditionally only published in ASJ that have now been rolled over and can only be published and submitted to ASJ Open Forum. So talk to us a little bit about that kind of innovation when it comes to open access and experimenting, if you will, with an open access journal, things that you couldn't do with a regular subscription-based journal?
Certainly. So I define it a little bit less around open access and subscription, but I would say one of ASJ's great strengths is it has a growing impact factor, and there's obviously a lot of debate around impact factor, but it is important in the community. Articles like video articles don't tend to be cited very much, and there's a kind of a discussion within editorial boards whether they're suitable for a journal. Now, we strongly believe that ASJ should be as good as it possibly can be, and measure that in lots of different ways. So we would like to have those articles available somewhere, and we see ASJ Open Forum as the perfect venue for it. Items like featured operative techniques, like My Way, are also areas for debates. I think it's good to see a technique in practice, and then for other authors to either write comments or to suggest letters to the editor or their own articles critiquing them or supporting these techniques. And I think ASJ Open Forum is a really fantastic venue for that. It's open, which means it has a huge audience, a huge potential audience, and allows people to go in and have a look and create some debate and really just move the arguments along in terms of the research of the field. It's also gives access to more junior members, as I said before, which allows them to take a viewpoint and then find out these new techniques, but also perhaps get some mentorship from those authors as well.
So you mentioned debate, and to quote Dr. Nahai, the hallmark of a scholarly journal is being open to debate and varying and differing viewpoints. So I think that's an excellent point, and it does give us the opportunity to do things like invited commentaries. We see that a lot in ASJ, and I think people really respond well to it, letters to the editor. But to your point about the junior residents and trainees, case reports, I think they do still serve a really important purpose, but you're right, they don't traditionally tend to be very highly cited. So it gives them an opportunity to have another line on their, another citation on their CV without sort of having a negative impact on ASJ.
Exactly. Yeah, I think another benefit is that ASJ does turn away a number of incremental studies as well. And one of the big debates within science is about the value of incremental studies and negative results and other areas, and reproducibility studies. One of the good examples of that is if we have a case series of 100 cases, the value of publishing something at 200 cases in ASJ, there's not a huge novelty factor.
Sure.
However, there is a lot of value in science for that because it reinforces that this really works. And ASJ Open Forum is a perfect venue for that. It shows that that's a study which has a place in the scientific literature, it should be published, and ASJ Open Forum is the best place for it.
So Chris, in terms of the benefits of open access to international authors, as you know, ASJ and ASJ Open Forum are both international global journals. What would you say are the biggest benefits to publishing in an open access journal?
So for an international author in particular, I think there are a large number of benefits. I think readership is the largest one in dissemination. So one of the core purposes of a journal is dissemination, is to spread knowledge as widely as possible. Now, unfortunately, throughout the world, not everyone has the same economic benefits as others. And one of the things that open access addresses is exactly that. So at the point of access, readers, wherever they are in the world, can read that material for free. And if we look at aesthetic surgery as a field, we all know about the strength in the US, we know the huge growth that's in Brazil and China, but there's huge amounts of growth in other areas of the world and the less developed countries in the world. And they should have same access to the same material, which gives them safe guidelines, which gives them responsible ways of carrying out procedures, to ensure that they do it in the best way. And so I think that's a huge benefit of an ASJ Open Forum. It allows those readers to look at the material and to understand the latest research, to put it into their own practice, and then just to grow the field wherever in the world they are practicing. It'll also allow authors from those countries to publish in the journal and to allow them to disseminate their work further.
So one of the words that we focus a lot on, both on our side, the editorial team, and your side, the publishing team, is quality. And Dr. Nahai and Dr. Kankel, our editor-in-chief and associate editor, they place quality above all else. So when we were conceiving of ASJ Open Forum, I know it was very important to all of us to have the same leadership team for ASJ Open Forum, the same editorial board, and the same rigorous peer review process. What else can you talk to us about today that's important when we think about the peer review process for open access?
Absolutely. So I'm really glad you asked that. I think there's a misconception that open access means lower quality. I don't think anything could be further from the truth. One of the huge strengths of open access and Oxford University Press's approach to open access is the same rigorous peer review. Now, it's very important to us as a quality-focused organisation, as you as a quality-focused organisation, to make sure that output for every open access journal that OUP publishes, and we do publish a lot, has the highest quality possible, and it's gone through a very, very rigorous peer review process. And you spoke to that with the same editorial board, with the same reviewers, and of course we were recruiting new reviewers as well with different expertise. Now, I think a big part of that you have to speak to is the cost of doing that. That quality does cost money. Mm-hmm. There's obviously the cost of producing a journal, of editorial staff time like yourself, of the editorial board's time, and actually there is a cost to doing peer review. And so in order to fund that, this is where what's known as the article processing charge on open access comes in. So with a subscription journal, a subscriber pays for the content. An open access journal, the author or the funder or their institution pays upfront for the cost. And so that cost supports the journal, it supports the staff working on the journal, it supports the society, and ensures that actually we're able to deliver the high quality content, which is the crucial point to the wider audience possible. I think that's really, really important to emphasise.
And also, we've had questions about when will the first print issue of ASJ Open Forum come out. So correct me if I'm wrong, but open access means strictly online, correct?
It does, yeah. So ASJ Open Forum will be an online-only journal. I think as journal publishing evolves, we're seeing much more the online version of the journal as being the core. We see most of usage coming through the online version. That is not to say the print is not important. Print's extremely important. I know a lot of people read the print cover to cover, and we receive a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback about it. But for ASJ Open Forum, we believe that online is the best form of dissemination that allows it to get to as wide an audience as it possibly can.
You mentioned usage, and we talk a lot about the bibliometrics. So how has ASJ Open Forum, which is a quarterly online-only publication, been performing so far in terms of usage?
It's been performing very well, actually beyond our expectations. I think it really delivers on the promise of open access, that it's no longer appealing just to a smaller subscriber base, to ASAP's members, to institutional subscribers, but actually globally. And so one of the great benefits I think we'll see from ASJ Open Forum is to be able to measure where usage is coming from, which we can do already, but without any barriers of paywall, we can see if there's areas of the world which are underserved. So if we, for example, if we got a lot of usage coming out of Chile in South America, we could maybe do a little bit more work to attract authors from those areas because we know that the journal is addressing a need. So yeah, I'm very pleased to say it's very early days with ASJ Open Forum, and I think we should all be aware of that. Mm-hmm. We've only been in our second issue now, and it will publish quarterly, but everything is looking extremely positive in terms of usage and that wide dissemination, which after all is really the point of every journal.
Now, I know some authors have asked us what the impact factor of ASJ Open Forum is. Is it covered and indexed by PubMed, etc., Clarivet? So talk us through the process. How long will it be until authors can expect an impact factor and expect to see things being indexed and covered?
Absolutely. So there's two aspects to this. So we'll talk about PubMed first. So ASJ Open Forum, when it has published enough content, which is roughly around 40 articles, will go into what's called PubMed Central. PubMed Central is PubMed's open access repository. Now, by being in PubMed Central, those articles will then link through into PubMed as well. There will be a separate formal application process into PubMed, which we expect to be complete in probably about a year and a half. PubMed has a bit of a backlog in terms of processing things. OUP have done this very successfully with a lot of journals, I should say. So PubMed has a number of rigorous, as you'd expect, barriers to cross. We've made sure the journal is set up to cross all of those, and so we expect it to be in PubMed in a not too long a time. In terms of impact factor is going to take a little bit longer. We expect, optimistically, I think about maybe 3 years. Optimistically, what will happen is that Clarivate, the company that runs Impact Factor, will apply for inclusion with them. They'll put us likely into something called their Emerging Sources Citation Index, where it'll be fully indexed. And then on a yearly basis, Clarivate do an assessment, and key titles from that sub-index are then promoted and receive an impact factor. That is entirely their decision. We don't get a viewpoint into it. We do some advocacy work, obviously, but it's very much based on the metrics they're seeing coming out of the journal. So I'd be optimistic and say 3 to 4 years, but obviously we'll be putting a lot of energy into making sure that happens.
And I think that all kind of ties back to the quality factor. So
Exactly.
if we accept the right articles, the usage is high, the readership is good, hopefully that will all help towards receiving an impact factor.
Yeah, exactly. They take a lot of things into consideration. Peer review is a large part of one. They want to make sure we're doing peer review in an effective way, in an ethical way, so we have a large amount of ethical guidance on the journal, conflict of interest, all those elements to make sure that the work we're publishing is the best it very can be. There's no conflicts of interest, there's no influence from industry, that it is academically sound content. And that's the core of what we're trying to achieve.
So you mentioned conflict of interest, and I know transparency is important in all of publishing. So for authors who haven't published in an open access journal before, is there any difference between what they must disclose in terms of conflict of interest in an open access journal versus any other journal?
There isn't. So you have to be just as rigorous in an open access journal as you do in a subscription journal. The only thing I would highlight is that if your open access article processing charge is being paid by someone, then you should disclose that. A good example would be if a pharmaceutical company or a device company paid that fee, that should be disclosed as part of your conflict of interest.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and like all of these things, the more transparent you can be, so much the better.
Mm-hmm. So open access and publishing in ASJ Open Forum, it seems like a huge opportunity, Chris. Are there any other options to do something similar in Aesthetic Surgery Journal?
Absolutely, yeah, I'm glad you asked. So Aesthetic Surgery Journal is a subscription journal, as we've spoken about, but actually is a hybrid journal. And what that means is if you want to make your material open access, you're able to do so. So when an author submits their work, they go through the full peer review process, and then they're accepted. They are then given the choice of signing the regular license, which is a subscription, or choosing an open access license, paying the article processing charge and making it open access at that point. And at that point, it publishes in the journal as normal. It still appears in the print issue, but the material is open access, so freely available. And we do that, and we've been doing that I think for about 5 years now with ASJ, and we have about 10% of articles publish open access, maybe a little less. So it is already established for a number of people who clearly believe in this, and believe in the positivity around open access.
So I think there's one distinction that we should make between an open access article and something that's made freely available. Mm-hmm. So with every issue, Dr. Nahai, with gratitude to Oxford, is able to choose one specific article of his editor's choice picks that is made freely open. So talk to us about the difference between an open access license and those freely open articles per issue.
Certainly. So there's two parts. So the first part is the free access is on a temporary basis. So obviously it's a subscription journal, and people are expecting to pay for content that only they can get to. So those articles are made free for a certain period of time, and then they're put back behind the subscriber wall. Mm-hmm. The other piece is around reuse. So one of the big differences with open access, rather than it just being free, is being able to reuse that content. So that means, although there's still copyright attached to it, an author, as long as they attribute it correctly, can then reuse that work. So if they were doing a presentation, for example, and they wanted about their paper, and they wanted to hand out copies of their paper, and it's under an open access license, they would be able to do that. So that's, again, a huge benefit of open access.
Absolutely. So I think today we've talked a lot about the benefits of open access in general, publishing in ASJ Open Forum, and sort of what's to come in the future once the journal matures a little bit, mm-hmm. and then some of the flexibility that exists already with ASJ. So I appreciate you taking time, and we hope that if anyone has questions, they'll email us at journal@surgery.org. They can reach out to any one of our team, Hunter Alexander, Kylie Vredos, myself, Chris Reid, Fuad Nahai, or Jeff Kenkel, and at any time we're always available to answer questions or to circle back and have another conversation.
Absolutely.